Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaskaram. Welcome to another lecture for the course History, Evolution and Development of Kuchipudi Dance. Like the previous lecture, we shall also discuss some other famous personalities in the Kuchipudi traditional families. The first personality that we would see in this lecture is Shri Darbha Venkateshwarlu Garu. Darbha Venkateshwarlu Garu is like an epitome or as a torchbearer to the old style of the traditional Yakshagana performances. He was a very consistent performer all through his life and always was performing all kinds of roles in the Kuchipudi Yakshaganas and the Kuchipudi Kalapams, and was very predominantly playing a prominent role in upholding the Kuchipudi Yakshagana flag. And he represents the old-time performance pattern of the Kuchipudi tradition. His entire life, he stayed in the Kuchipudi Agraharam, and he almost performed with 3 generations of actors all through his life. Sri Venkateshwarlu Garu was born in 1913 to Sri Chinta Narayanamurthy Garu and Seethamma at the Kuchipudi village, and he was adopted by Darbha Gopalam Garu, who was a co-brother to Chinta Narayanamurthy Garu. And right from the young age, he was initiated into dance like any other Kuchipudi Bhagavatar by his father. And for the advanced training in the Kuchipudi Yakshaganas, he learnt it from the legendary Yakshagana Pitamaha, Sri Chinta Venkatramaya Garu. He was an all-time performer, and like any other Kuchipudi Bhagavatar men would do, he played the child roles in the Kuchipudi Yakshaganas like the Prahlada in the Prahlada Charitam, and when he was in his pre-teens or in his teenage, he played the secondary female roles, and in his adulthood he played the lead roles, both female and male. And after a certain point of time, when he wanted to retire from performing or withdraw from acting, he still performed secondary roles because of certain conditions that made him continue doing that, and also the request of the audience and the team leads of the Yakshagana troops that were present in the Kuchipudi Agraharam. Even though those roles were beyond his age, he used to take up that as a challenge, and he used to perform them with such finesse and ease. Imagine a man who was about to retire but is doing the role of a Madhavi in Bhama Kalapam, and people were convinced for the technical brilliance that Darbha Venkateshwarlu Garu has showcased while even doing the secondary female leads in the Kuchipudi Yakshaganas and the Kuchipudi Kalapams. He was a very well-known performer in the Kuchipudi tradition, and he worked with many melams all through his life. And as said before, he also worked with almost 3 generations of actors. After he was doing the secondary lead roles when he wanted to withdraw from acting. He also became very active in doing political theatre, which shows his patriotism, which was there in his character, that his entire life he was always performing and giving back to the Kuchipudi Yakshaganas through all the roles that he played. But after a certain point, the patriotism in Darbha Venkateshwarlu Garu made him realize that apart from the Kuchipudi Yakshaganas and the Kalapas that he is doing, he also has to be an active member in the political theatre, which was working as a revolution against the British colonial government in India. And so, he has choreographed political ballets for the organization of theatre called as Prajanatya Mandali, and he choreographed a dance drama called as Crips Rayabaram. This was a political ballet. It was so revolutionary in its character, the Crips Rayabaram, that he was also taken into custody by the British officials and was released later. Through all his life, as said before, as he was a very active performer, but there are certain roles in which Darbha Venkateshwarlu Garu was extremely famous. One being the Madhavi in Bhama Kalapam, especially when Vedantam Satyanarayana Sharma Garu was playing the Satyabhama. The chemistry that these both shared on stage as Satyabhama and Madhavi was very admirable and very remembered by the audience of those times. And Darbha Venkateshwarlu Garu stays as an epitome of professional excellence and a man of great values, patriotism, and an artist of consistency. The next personality that we would see in this lecture is Vedantam Raghavaya Garu. Vedantam Raghavaya Garu was the epitome of Kuchipudi's tradition and creativity. I hope many of you have heard about the movie Devadasu, which was acted by Sri Akkineni Nageshwar Rao Garu and Savitri Garu in the lead roles of Devadasu and Parvati. It was a yesteryear-old film that created waves of new fresh air that came into the South Indian cinema that spoke about fiction and social issues. It was directed by none other than Vedantam Raghavaya Garu. But today we will see about Raghavaya Garu not as a film director, but as a legendary personality who has dedicated his entire life in making Kuchipudi noticed, being given popularity and accepted in the cultural hub of Madras. Sri Vedantam Raghavaya Garu was born to Vedantam Ramayya Garu and Annapurnamma in the year 1919 in the Kuchipudi village, and he was trained in the tutelage of Sri Chinta Venkatramaya Garu. Chinta Venkatramaya Garu, who is the Yakshagana Pitamaha, is the maternal grandfather of Vedantam Raghavaya Garu. And he was trained directly from the beginning under the tutelage of his maternal grandfather, and he has gained a lot of technical brilliance under the tutelage of his guru. Raghavaya Garu played the role of Prahlada so well in his younger days that after a performance, the British official gifted him a gold medal with a government insignia imprinted on it. As I said before, it is very natural for the Kuchipudi Bhagavatars to start learning at the age of 6 and 7, and after a few years of training, they will start playing the child roles in the Kuchipudi Yakshaganas. And when they reach teenage, they will do the secondary female roles, and in their adulthood will do the male leads or the female leads, and then post probably 45-50, they will do these secondary male and female lead roles, or will completely shift to teaching the next generation of students. So like any other Kuchipudi Bhagavatar, Vedantam Raghavaya Garu also started his career by playing child roles in the Kuchipudi Yakshaganas that were choreographed and directed by his illustrious grandfather, Sri Chinta Venkatramaya Garu, and was also lauded by the British government officials in many performances. And he was also a very well known, a very vivacious and a vibrant performer in his younger days. His donning of the role of Usha got him national recognition in those days. Usha is the female lead of the Kuchipudi Yakshagana Usha Parinayam, and Sri Vedantam Raghavaya Garu was very well known in playing the role of Usha in the Usha Parinayam, which got him almost national recognition. During his times, he was the center of Kuchipudi Yakshaganams and the Bhama Kalapam performances. Sri Vedantam Raghavaya Garu as a person was very tall, very well built, very handsome. And so as a performer, the aura that he vibrated or the aura that he passed on stage as a performer has to be experienced. He was a very, very well-known performer of his times, and being the direct grandson of Chinta Venkatramaya Garu, he had the luck of being the center of the part of the Kuchipudi Yakshaganas that came from the Chintavari Medam under the choreography and direction of Chinta Venkatramaya Garu. After some time, he donned the roles of male leads and was equally able. Usually in Kuchipudi Yakshaganas, in the yesteryears of Kuchipudi Yakshaganas, when I mean to say, there are very few people, or even in the Nritya Rupakams of Master Garu, Vempati Master Garu also, or in the yesteryears Kuchipudi Yakshaganams also, usually what happens is there are certain people who will majorly suit for the male roles because of the persona that they have, the physical persona that they have. And few artists will be suitable only for the heroine roles. Some people will be suitable for the Vishnu roles, for the Shiva role, someone else. But between all this, there are only a few people, few actors specifically, who can do the roles of both hero and heroine with equal capability and brilliance. Because convincing your audience with a hero role and then convincing the audience with a female lead role is not a joke. And Vedantam Raghavaya Garu was one such among those few people who could do both the male leads and the female lead roles with equal brilliance. He also learnt special courses in Hastabhinayam and Mukajabhinayam from his guru and mentor Sri Vedantam Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu. After learning and performing along with his maternal grandfather Chinta Venkatramaya Garu, Vedantam Raghavaya Garu has joined Sri Vedantam Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu for advanced training in Mukajabhinayam and Hastabhinayam. And after joining Vedantam Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu, Raghavaya Garu played a very major role in propagating the solo repertoire of Kuchipudi because of the works of his guru Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu. It was Raghavaya Garu and Ayanki Tandava Krishna Garu and Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu's son Jagannatha Sharma Garu. These three people have played a very, very prominent role in the promotion and the propagation of the solo repertoire of the Kuchipudi dance by Sri Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu. Vedantam Raghavaya Garu, you won't believe, students, has performed so much the choreographies of his master Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu that he was making the Kuchipudi solo repertoire that was initiated by his guru so popular and promoting it. And because of that, probably because of the traveling experiences that he had, and probably because of seeing a lot of local cultures and traditions and different art styles also, that also made him, an artist of 360-degree perspective brilliance. And he was of great support to his guru in presenting the Vyastamshams, which is the solo dance pieces in the newly emerging Kuchipudi solo repertoire that we have just discussed. Raghavaya Garu was the first person to showcase the Tarangam dance with a pot full of water on the head for Balagopala Tarangam, and the rest is history. It was documented in the book by Modali Nagabhushana Sharma Garu, which is Kuchipudi Gurus, Performers and Performance Traditions, that it was Raghavaya Garu who was the very first dancer with whom Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu has experimented the Tarangam as a solo dance in the Kuchipudi tradition, where the dancer dances on the rims of the brass plate by putting a pot full of water on the head and balancing it. He used to show the other students how to dance on the rims of the brass plate by having Vedantam Raghavaya Garu do that, which makes Raghavaya Garu the very first dancer to do the Tarangam dance with the item Balagopala Tarangam. And with that initiative, the Tarangams have become such a very natural part of the Kuchipudi solo dance repertoire that it is not exaggerating if one says that probably Tarangams are synonymous to the Kuchipudi solo dance repertoire. One important and unique virtue was the bodily transformation. When he played female roles, he used to dress up in such a way that he used to look lean and short, who was otherwise tall and well built. Students, I have just told you that Vedantam Raghavaya Garu convinced his audience while playing both the female and the male leads. When he used to play the male leads, he was his regular natural persona of the tall, handsome, well-built personality. But with the illusion that he used to create with the Aharya Abhinayam while getting dressed, when he used to play the female roles, he used to look very lean, he used to look very short, he used to look very meek, that suits a female lead role, right? And people used to just get surprised as to how can this tall, well-looking, well-built man be looking so thin, lean and short on stage. That was the acting prowess and brilliance of Vedantam Raghavaya Garu, which made him convince his audience that he was able in performing both the male and the female leads. In 1935, he started the Prabhakara Natya Mandali with both Kuchipudi and non-Kuchipudi artists. If you remember, I was telling you that Vedantam Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu was among the very first people who has started teaching the Kuchipudi dance tradition to the people who didn't belong to the traditional families of the Kuchipudi Agraharam. And with the disciples of his guru and also few Kuchipudi artists from the traditional families, Vedantam Raghavaya Garu in the year 1935 started a dance organization called as Prabhakara Natya Mandali. And what did they do through Prabhakara Natya Mandali? They presented new choreographies that were short and were from other languages also. Some contemporary and social themes were also part of their presentations instead of the regular mythological themes. Now, the seed of presenting in other languages is definitely from his guru Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu, who also experimented in presenting Kuchipudi solo items in the other languages like Tamil or Samskrita or Marathi or Hindi. Through Prabhakara Natya Mandali also, Vedantam Raghavaya Garu presented new choreographies with new themes, not just the mythological ones from the Puranas or the Itihasas, but from the social themes. And also in other languages, started traveling through the Prabhakara Natya Mandali with his friends from the Kuchipudi Agraharam and also from the non-traditional families who were trained under Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu. And they presented many new choreographies in many centers of India in many languages, which made Kuchipudi more popular among the society. Raghavaya Garu also enacted in movies, with his first being Raitu Bidda in the year 1941. Vedantam Raghavaya Garu, apart from being a Yakshagana performer, a Kalapa performer, being someone who has set up a Prabhakara Natya Mandali that used to do a lot of contemporary themes in other languages also, was also an actor in the South Indian cinema, where he also played some minor roles in films, and later he acted in many other films in the minor roles, but very predominantly where he is well known in the South Indian cinema is when he established a production house called as Vinoda Films along with other friends. And from then on, what did he do? He started producing films, he started directing films. So more than playing minor roles in the South Indian cinema, his major contribution was directing films, and some of the famous films that he has directed was Devadas, Suvarna Sundari, Adabratuku, Stree Sahasam, Bala Nagamma, Anarkali, Rahasyam, etc. Vedantam Raghavaya Garu has given a hope to the Kuchipudi Agraharam people that apart from performing the Yakshaganas or the Kalapas, coming from a dance drama tradition perspective, they have a lot of view on how a dance should be directed in the cinema, because cinema doesn't just possibly look at dance only from a religious perspective. It's both religious, also mythological, also social, also contemporary, sometimes political, sometimes romance, sometimes comedy. So all these things come into the purview of drama. And Kuchipudi Bhagavatars are well known for the drama content that they have in their DNA. So this gave a lot of hope to the Kuchipudi Bhagavatars that they have the ability to choreograph dance pieces or be a part of the South Indian cinema, where the center was Madras back those days. And with all these, Vedantam Raghavaya Garu also stands as one of the legendary personalities belonging to the Kuchipudi traditional families, who has paved a path to the next generation to come with his works, his choreographies, and the movies that he has directed. The next personality that we would be discussing in this lecture is Shri Vempati Pedda Satyam Garu. Vempati Pedda Satyam Garu's name was Vempati Satyanarayana Garu, who was born in 1922 to Vempati Subbarao Garu and Seetamma at the Kuchipudi village. But why is he called Vempati Pedda Satyam? Because that Pedda, which means Telugu, which means big in Telugu, was consciously used to distinguish between his cousin Vempati Chinna Satyam Garu and Vempati Pedda Satyam Garu. Both were Vempati Satyanarayana Garu. So just for the distinction purpose, he was called as Pedda Satyam, and his younger cousin brother was called as Vempati Chinna Satyam. Shri Pedda Satyam Garu was trained under Chinta Venkatramaya Garu, and he later joined Vedantam Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu at the behest of his former guru. Vempati Pedda Satyam Garu, like many of the Kuchipudi Bhagavatars, has started learning from Chinta Venkatramaya Garu, was a very active performer in his heydays, and later he took to advanced training from Vedantam Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu and became very well known with the training that he took from Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu, and he also embraced and absorbed many contemporary views that his Guru Lakshminarayana Shastri Garu had during those days. And very unfortunately, at a certain point of time, Vedantam Vempati Pedda Satyam garu couldn't continue his training under Lakshminarayana Shastri garu, and but Pedda Satyam garu had nothing to do. There was a sort of void in his life, in the career, when he couldn't continue under Lakshminarayana Shastri garu. And because Pedda Satyam garu was a artist himself, was a painter himself, what did he do? He met Adivi Bapiraju garu, a very famous poet, painter, novelist back those days, who was the principal of National College in Machilipatnam. So what did Pedda Satyam garu do? He approached Adivi Bapiraju garu, and because he wanted some work to be given to him for his to meet his daily requirements, he met Adivi Bapiraju garu, showed some of his paintings, and Shri Bapiraju garu was very much impressed with whatever Pedda Satyam garu has showed him, and promised him that he would give advanced training in painting to Pedda Satyam garu, and also showed some Brahmin families so that Satyam garu could work and meet his daily requirements. And the role that Adivi Bapiraju garu had played in the life of Vempati Pedda Satyam garu is very remarkable. So after few years of working with Adivi Bapiraju garu and meeting his daily requirements, due to some unavoidable conditions, Pedda Satyam garu had to come back to the Chintavari Melam in the Kuchipudi village. And after few years, Adivi Bapiraju garu himself, who was appointed as the art director for a film called as Meerabhai, which was released in the year 1940, suggested the name of Vempati Pedda Satyam garu to dance for a piece called as Kapalika in the film Meerabhai. So, and it is through this channel that Vempati Pedda Satyam garu has slowly entered the South Indian cinema in the early 1940s. And he was also introduced to Ram Gopal garu. And who was Ram Gopal? Ram Gopal was a very well-known, legendary personality in the contemporary dance of India. And when he was introduced by Adivi Bapiraju garu to Ram Gopal himself invited Vempati Pedda Satyam garu to come to Bangalore along with him and teach Kuchipudi at his institution in the Bangalore. And because of moving to Bangalore and teaching in the institution of Ram Gopal garu, Vempati Pedda Satyam garu had the opportunity to see and learn Bharatanatyam and Kathakali that were also taught in the institutions of Ram Gopal garu. So with that awareness that he had gotten by working in the institution of Ram Gopal garu for a salary of 50 rupees, he also had the chance to view, understand, and also learn other dance forms like Bharatanatyam and Kathakali, which also increased his awareness of the other dance forms, other cultural bases, how the other dance forms are performed, what is the view that in general has to be there while choreographing dance. So all these bases increased for Vempati Pedda Satyam garu. And apart from teaching in the troops of Ram Gopal garu, he also performed in the North Indian towns. And because of all this, the awareness that he had, the exposure that he had in the North Indian towns through the troupe of Ram Gopal garu also made a remarkable contribution in the mind of Pedda Satyam garu. Later, Raghavaya garu has called Pedda Satyam garu to join in the Prabhakara Natya Mandali that he established, and both of them were actively performing in the Prabhakara Natya Mandali. And whenever Raghavaya garu was off to the cinema, dance direction or direction, Pedda Satyam garu used to take care of the Prabhakara Natya Mandali, or vice versa. And later, slowly, movie opportunities knocked the door of Pedda Satyam garu for dance directions, which was not very usual back those days, because back those days there were no so much of dance pieces in the songs which that we see now. So dance direction was something, a very new concept in South Indian cinema back those days. And Vempati Pedda Satyam garu was probably one of the very first few people who started the concept of dance direction in the South Indian cinema. And not just being the first, but he was a pioneer in the dance directions in the South Indian cinema, and he worked for more than 300 films in his entire career. He received several awards and nominations for his dance directions in cinema, and he was also a guiding light to his cousin, Vempati Chinasatyam Garu. And after some years, he established his own dance institution, the Kuchipudi Kala Kendram in Madras. And apart from that, with an organization called as Lalita Kala Natya Mandali, he organized annual festivals of dance, making able efforts in promoting the Indian art and culture. And through Lalita Kala Natya Mandali, he has promoted many dance festivals, organized many dance festivals. And suddenly in the year 1988, he passed away in his native village, Kuchipudi, but leaving behind a rich legacy and a heritage for the others to follow, with all the contributions that he has made to Kuchipudi dance. So these are a few personalities that we have discussed in this lecture. We'll see some other personalities in the next lectures to come. Until then, namaskaram.